The end-SARS protest kicked off as an agitation against the anti-robbery squad of the police, now with a wider scope of demands: justice for all deceased victims of police brutality and appropriate compensation for their families.
The civil disruption that happened around the end-SARS protests resulted in a very unstable environment, loss of law and order. Our ambulances and our logistics teams were being attacked. Our hospitals were being vandalized. They were actually being overwhelmed by trauma cases. Our doctors and medical personnel couldn't get to work. Those that were at work were stranded at work.
It's not the first time that indeed your voice has spoken and has spoken loud. And I want to commend all of you for that.
If you're moving around in any government-marked vehicle or you resembled any form of authority, you were a victim, and many of our staff were affected.
We're just coming out of COVID, and it's still with us. Lagos is the epicenter. We don't know who has the virus. We don't want you to take this thing to your parents at home.
The second wave of the virus is proven to be more deadly and spreading more rapidly than before. The new strains are identified in several countries and imported to others, including Nigeria.
In the first wave, there were a lot of awareness campaigns. We have told the older people that they are at high risk and they are more likely to die if they get the infection. And I imagine that the older people, from experience, have decided to stay indoors much more than the younger people. Because we said, oh, they survive more, they have immunity, they have all of that. They've been in town.
The human population are developing interventions to stop the virus. The virus, meaning to carry out its own mission, changes its own strategy. And it does that by usually changing its structure. And the more times a virus moves through people, the more it learns about how to bypass the immune system of human beings.
The tests that we do for detecting the original SARS virus, most of the kits were 3-gene kits. And so it would detect both an N gene and an E gene and another gene called ORF. This particular variant seems to have found a way to avoid detection of one of the genes that we normally test for. This is alarming because some laboratories may be only doing tests with one gene. Most laboratories should be doing tests with 2 or 3 genes, so that way, if one gene is not detected, another one is.
There's still need for our virologists to do a lot more research and see what we can do to actually stop this virus from changing its nature.
This is somebody that should be isolating for 7 days.
That has come into, yes.
That has come in,
yes.
And needs to have a test on day 7, right?
Yes. Good afternoon, sir. Yes, my name is Fumi. I'm calling from Lagos State Telemedicine Service. It's an arm of Lagos State COVID-19 response team.
The second wave was more structured for us. We knew what to do. We had the home-based care, we had the isolation centers, we had the community health extension workers, we had our expanded testing platform. We could collect real data all the time. So I'm just testing your system. All right, apart from tiredness, I think I'm okay. What can I do for that?
Need rest, sir.
I need rest?
Yeah.
Okay.
When COVID-19 came in February, before that, the commissioner was like, be prepared, this thing is coming. So when it came in, we were between, should we cremate? Should we give back to the family? What should we do? So I went to the commissioner, I said, excuse me, sir, I need to know, if a patient dies, does COVID-19 lives after death? And he said yes. When they bring them in, what we do first, sprinkle the body down heavily with chlorine, bag them again, and put them away for 48 hours. And by that, we know that the virus must have died. And we don't mess around with the body. It is safe for people to bury because they are well embalmed with formalin-based chemicals. So no matter what, the virus is gone.
We had to convince some people to come into isolation, but during the second wave, people were coming in on their own because they were having difficulty breathing. We noticed in the second wave that more people had respiratory distress. And when you have respiratory distress, you need oxygen.
Yeah, that's it.
97.
I think it was there.
That's not, is it, am I okay?
That's okay. No.
We're putting these across the state so that citizens find it easy to come to a fixed location, not a tent, to get your COVID test. It's important for us to know what's happening in the community. So we are encouraging people, if you have the symptoms, to come and get tested. That gives us the idea of how much to plan, where to put our resources, and what's happening to the outbreak.
Lagos State had the unenviable position of being not just the hardest hit, but the earliest hit, right? And so had to really come up with their own strategies very early on how they were going to combat and manage and respond to the virus. And I think even this oxygen treatment centers that are being decentralized across the state is a great innovation. It will bring care closer to people.
Once there's an arrival, everybody is ready to receive incoming passengers. This camera, it will pick everybody's temperature as they are coming towards this line, those on this line and that line. And if there's any fever, it will give an alarm. There's a screen there where you can watch and be looking at the temperature.
Before any passenger that wishes to come to Nigeria is supposed to visit a site known as the Nigeria International Travel Portal, the person will enter his or her details. Then the person will also do a PCR COVID-19 test from the country where the person is staying. Then the PCR COVID-19 test must not be more than 120 hours from the time of sample collection to the time of departure.
If the case is detected on board an aircraft, we have a designated place where the aircraft is parked for sick passengers on board that are suspicious of infectious disease. And there's a clinic there for isolation for a short time for Lagos State to come and evacuate. So this door is the exit door for any suspected case so that they won't mingle with other passengers and infect them. You can see that it's direct to the tarmac and the ambulance is parked here.
Despite the very stiff regulations that we put into the airline movement and the safety of traveling, it's not 100%. And so people can get through the system being positive and not being picked up.
All arriving passengers must go on self-isolation for 7 days, because it is possible passengers come in with a negative test, but the passenger may be incubating. On the 7th day of arrival, the passenger will now go and do another repeat test.
It's not a domesticated illness or disease. It's something that is going to be imported by Nigerians that have traveled abroad or by foreigners that are traveling into the country. So what strategy we need to put in place to quickly be able to block, the border post and stop the influx. So that finally happened. It took a while, before it happened, but it finally happened.
I was symptomless. I didn't have a single, not a headache. I didn't have a cough, but my result came out positive. I have children, I have family, I have a husband to go back to. So I had to try to get them tested and all that. And then psychologically we were traumatized, families were calling and sympathizing, It was not an easy thing to go through.
I could not smell, I could not taste, I informed the doctor and they placed me on medication and told me to rest. Initially my husband was scared. I had to use wisdom to communicate with him. It's not a death sentence, even as people are dying, but I felt at peace.
Most of our healthcare workers have insurance. As a matter of fact, the entire workforce have insurance. During the pandemic, at the epic period of it, all the frontline health workers and the providers of services around that period were all additionally insured for any fatalities that may happen or injuries that may be occasioned.
Lagos State was one of the few states to actually establish a strong psychosocial support team at the very beginning of the pandemic that reached thousands and thousands of COVID-19 patients and their families and helping them walk through this period, trying period.
This kind of epidemic is not just the responsibility of the state government alone. It is a shared responsibility. People themselves, they need to take responsibility for their own health. A lot of risk communication messages are going out there for people to observe the protocols.
We want to get back our Lagos, of course with some moderation, around better behaviors, around understanding that we should be each other's brother's keeper. We are tough people. This will blow over. You can rest assured that the state government is ready. We are trying to control this, very, very quickly, just so that it doesn't, disturb our life forever, and we can go back to who we are, to what we stand for.
Let's welcome the governor of Lagos State.
As you can see, I just had my own shot of the AstraZeneca vaccine. I don't feel anything.
COVID takes you by surprise, and what we've been trying to do in Lagos is stop reacting to COVID, but being proactive.